avid readers, book nerds, or casual observers. Welcome to the read-along brought to you by the Lit Roundtable. I'm Anna.
And I'm Joseph, and this is our read-along of The Republic of Thieves by Scott Lynch. Alrighty, it's time for week 6.
Week 6! Chapter 7.
And before we get too far, like the last 2 or 3 times, what's the name of the chapter?
Yeah, Chapter 7 is called The 5-Year Game Counter Move. And then the interlude was called Aurin and Amadine. Does that sound right? Did I pronounce those correctly?
Yeah.
So, those are our chapter names and titles.
Mm-hmm. So, Chapter 7 was basically, how do we get off this dang boat?
Yeah. We also discovered that Sabetha was very thorough in giving the ship directions on what to do with these boys.
Mm-hmm.
And
naturally,
their rooms were cleaned every day to the point where they could English is hard. There was no possible way they could keep any secrets.
Like knives or tools or anything.
Nothing.
She also made it an incredibly comfortable stay. They're basically on a pleasure cruise for however long. She gave them a lot of incentives to stay on the boat.
Yeah. Amazing food.
Yeah. They had their own personal chef.
Yeah. Jean got to keep his hair from, which this is not a luxury, but he got to keep the little piece of
hair.
hair
The lock of
from
hair.
Oh my gosh, I want to say Esme, but I don't think that's right.
It's Esri.
Esri, thank you.
Yeah.
From Esri. Esme is Renesmee, which is the dumb baby in Twilight. Anyway.
Yeah. I wasn't going to say anything, but I thought it too. I was like, you're thinking about a Twilight character.
Well, I wasn't. I was thinking about the character from the last book, but the names are similar. So,
okay.
Anyway. Yeah. So she's not heartless, which we knew that.
Yeah, for sure.
But they're not having it either.
No, their first move is to try to bribe everyone and to letting them off, and then they don't, and then they just go back and forth for a while until eventually they're like, well, if we're going to have any chance of getting off this ship, we need some rough weather.
Yeah.
They identify a weak point with their sailing know-how, and
a little dubious.
And there is bad weather.
Right.
Convenient bad weather.
The more realistic part is that Locke is hoping that the poison ivy will just show up. Poison ivy? Wow, I'm having a hard time with names.
The poison orchid.
Golly! Gosh,
is the name of
I was so sorry, you guys. What is happening to my brain? Captain
Drakasha.
Yeah.
And the poison orchid.
They're hoping the poison orchid will show up. At least Locke is. And Jean is like, that is not happening. You're dumb. We got to figure this out.
Well, Locke said it because all of the readers were thinking it.
Maybe.
I know. I was like, man, wouldn't that be real convenient if Captain Drakasha showed up in the poison orchid?
It would have been very convenient. But I appreciate that Jean was like, that is not happening. She is busy elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. So, I think that Patience may have conjured up a little bit of a maelstrom to help them, because
that makes sense.
I feel like they can kind of control weather.
Well, they for sure controlled the wind.
The wind.
So
yeah.
I don't see why not. And this ship doesn't have any Bonds Magi on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we know of.
Not that we knew of. Not that we knew of. So yeah, I think that weather was too convenient to not be a helping hand, like a literal helping hand for Locke and Jean.
That makes sense. That hadn't occurred to me, but yeah, I think you're probably right. It's not without injury. Because Jean gets a pretty bad bloody nose.
Oh yeah, he gets messed up.
Yeah.
But they do make it onto the little dinghy. They make it onto the
They call it a
onto the
jolly
boat.
boat.
The Jolly Roger.
Well, no, they called it a jolly boat.
I know. It just makes me
It was
think
cute.
of the Jolly Roger.
Yes, yes.
And they rowed ashore. Good job, boys. You made it back to land,
And they hijacked a carriage.
which was entertaining.
It was.
It's always, I love watching our boys work and
Yeah.
con people. It's always so satisfying, especially when the person they're conning is just deplorable
Yeah,
and
it's pretty insufferable.
awful.
It was bad.
Yeah.
But they left him without any clothes. They took his carriage and his clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And then Locke was like, next time I need a fire, I'm going to burn your clothes, dude. Which is just like next level petty that I was not expecting. But I should have been.
The pettiness of the Komori insults is so incredible.
It's pretty amazing. So the chapter was actually pretty short compared to the interlude. As far as like audiobook times go, the chapter was only like 45 minutes and the interlude was like an hour and a half.
Yeah, they managed to get off the boat pretty quick.
They did. They did.
And then the interlude had a bunch of juicy stuff that happened. Well,
I wouldn't say a bunch. There was like a fair bit of like lull in this.
in the beginning,
Yeah.
it reminded me of back when I was in theater class.
Yeah.
So I enjoy. I am imagining Moncrane as our theater teacher in high school.
Yeah. I'm not saying I didn't. I'm not saying that like it was bad. I appreciated that like we saw the behind the scenes of the play prep, and I totally know what you're saying about it being like being in theater again. I was thinking more about like college for me and like all my friends that were in theater because they would talk about theater stuff at dinner and lunch and whatever.
Yeah. I guess I'm mostly the part that's most fresh is like the end of the interlude, which is like all the drama.
Right. That was interesting. I felt like the beginning I was like, okay.
Yeah.
We're in like Shakespeare boot camp, but not.
Yeah.
So, that reminds me. Sabetha also left a book for Jean and Locke, and it was a copy of the Republic of Thieves, which is the play that they're doing. So, some little bit of like inception happening there. And then we flash back to them learning the play.
Right. I'm curious to see how the two things will mirror each other with like the actual production of the play going forward, especially after the interlude ended. I'm really curious to see how like the real life and the interludes will kind of mirror each other because that's typically what they do in this kind of thing. Where,
I'm not seeing it as clearly this time though.
Yeah, which is why I'm curious to see how and if they will mirror each other. But I thought that it was kind of funny seeing Locke be like, but I want to be the character that gets to kiss Sabetha on stage. Oh, he's like, he's just moping around. I thought it was
that part. That part did remind me of high school like musical time when people would be mad about who got cast as who because that meant they were gonna have to kiss and blah blah blah.
Yeah. I'm glad that. I mean, the amount of disrespect that our boy Jean was getting was, I would not stand for it, and I'm glad that they found he got to prove himself, be like, yes, I can work a needle and a thread. I know what pleating is, and look at my thimble calluses.
Yeah,
You've got your costumer right here, folks.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was fun, and like the whole bit where they had the Galdo twins reading off of like taking turns reading, and one of them was like super bad and the other one overcompensated because the other one was bad, and it was just like felt very real. Yeah,
the characters in these books always feel very real, and that is something that I think Scott Lynch gets praise for.
Yes. Agreed.
Has earned praise for.
Agreed.
For sure.
Well deserved praise. There's like a whole fight between Jean and Bertrand, which Bertrand, all I could think of was Bertrand Bell from Critical Role, and I was like, that is not who
Yeah.
this is. But that is all.
No.
All I'm thinking about is Jean facing up against a Travis Willingham character.
Hey, they kicked the crap out of each
They
other.
did.
And
Like,
Jean held his ground against like a 26-year-old.
yeah,
So
yeah.
good job, Jean.
Which, like, are we surprised? Jean is a beast.
Nah, man, he's a truck.
Yeah.
Powerhouse.
And he's defending Locke. Of course.
Naturally. Because Locke was offended that Bertrand's wife was insulting Sabetha's looks.
Yeah.
And then everyone popped off.
Yeah. Like, hard. Yeah. So the juicy part. The Locke and Sabetha drama.
Like, man, so here's where I'm at, right? We know that they end up becoming a couple.
Right.
So part of this feels I don't want to say contrived, but it's like we know they're going to be a couple eventually, so why
Right.
it feels like why are we reading about their drama? But I mean, we get to they're so close to being on the same page, and Locke says all the right things finally, and
Like
Sabetha
confessing his
even
love and like how wonderful she is, and
and
it's cute.
she also confesses how much she likes him, and they're just complimenting each other back and forth, and like how much like, oh, let me tell you all the things I like about you and all this stuff. And then Locke mentions that like
Well, before
he knows.
that,
Yeah.
I wrote down like, so Locke says all these like very like kind, like high praiseworthy things to her, and then she says, I should want someone taller, someone better looking, and then she goes on and on to talk about how subpar he is, but she likes him anyway. I was like, wow, it's a good thing that Locke is like head over heels for you, man, because I don't know
That's rude.
that just anybody would be able to withstand like that level of criticism that you just handed him for things that he literally cannot change about himself.
Locke is our short king.
I guess. Is he? Maybe he still is short. I mean, I know he's small, but I didn't know.
I guess I knew he was super thin,
Yeah.
but I always imagined him as like average height,
Yeah.
because easier to be disguised if you're just average height.
Right.
But I know I'm sure Jean's taller.
Yeah.
But
Well, Jean's just
yeah,
like
no,
a big dude all around.
yeah. So they're telling each other how much they like each other, and then Locke mentions how he's been obsessed with her ever since he first saw her, and like he caught a flash of her red roots under her hat, and then she
Well, and he
just-
loves her for her true. He loves her true self best, is what he said.
yeah, which to him was just it was probably just I'm imagining that he meant it as I just don't want you to have to hide who you really are. Like I want you to be able to be yourself around me, and
You don't have to wear makeup, babe.
oh my gosh, not like that. You know what I mean?
No, I'm being kind of serious. Like that you don't like. I want you to be your true, authentic self. Like you don't have to do all the whatever.
Yeah. I know there's
But also like
there's
a little
a lot.
facetious because that's like kind of a thing. But
Yeah, it's like a guys that say that are identified as cringe,
yeah,
right? Like, oh, I like you better without the makeup. It's I don't know. It's
Sure.
like it's a weird thing, but I don't think he meant it like that. So I
No.
think it was just like I want you to be yourself around me and not feel like you have to hide anything. And then she comes around with, you saw my red hair. Is that why you like me? And she like apparently is incredibly like touchy about her red hair,
Yeah.
which I guess I didn't realize was a controversial thing, that
right.
like redheads in this universe are like highly sought after and sexualized, and
Right.
that's why she dyes her hair brown.
Right. My assumption had been that she dyed her hair brown to be like more inconspicuous, right? To like for her costumes to work better. Yeah, I was also totally shocked that it like turned into this whole thing. And my note is just oh, her red hair is a thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's a curse for her.
And like when Callow and Galdo made a pass at her, Father Chains gave her like a poison dagger to sleep with,
Mm-hmm.
and like all this stuff that she just kind of unloads all at once. And Locke's like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
Back pedal. What's going on? What's happening? Stop, wait.
He's like, things were going so well. And then she
Uh,
like storms off. Like she's so mad that she just like
no, she kicks him out. She's like, get
does she
off the
kick him
roof.
out? Oh, they're on the roof.
Yeah.
That's right.
And he gets grabbed by the guy when he gets kicked off the roof, the new patron of the Moncrane company. I forget his name. He was listening into the whole thing, and he's like, oh, you're cousins, huh? That seemed a little too chummy for cousins. And he's like, got a knife to Locke's face,
Yep.
and he wants Locke to tell him everything.
Yeah. And then it ended.
Man.
So
Oof.
So part of me thinks that they had to have that big explosive argument so that someone would overhear it. Because I think if they're just talking in hushed tones,
Yeah.
like it's not going to be overheard. But
I guess for me, that makes sense. For me, I was just the whole time it was happening, I was like, but we know they get together, so like, so that's how they injected conflict. Even though we know the conflict gets resolved, they had to inject conflict with a third party
right,
to where the third party overheard it.
right.
But before Locke got nabbed by the guy, I did kind of have some like eye roll moments of like, come on, we know they get together. Why are we wasting time? Like, we're already over halfway through this book.
Yeah.
Why are we wasting time on conflict that we know gets resolved? But it makes sense if
That's
if,
how stories work, Joseph.
well,
but I know. I know what you're
you know
saying.
what I mean.
Yes.
Like, we know the conflict gets, well, most of the time conflict gets resolved in the end of the book, but like
It's how you get there.
we explicitly knew they do become a couple. So it was, I don't know. It just in the moment, I also hate the whole communication thing where it's
Yeah.
like,
No, I do too. I get it.
if you guys would just talk about your feelings and your problems, Sabetha, use your words. Why is the red hair a hang
Well,
up for you?
She did use her words. It's more of a, if you used your ears for a half second and actually thought about what he said and what he meant versus what you're projecting onto what he said,
Right.
this would have gone a whole lot different.
Because you just said he was like a baby. He was a child. I don't think that the 7-year-old was sexualizing your red hair.
No, I think he was just like, aw, she has this thing that she covers up about herself, and I think it's really pretty, and I just want her to know that I think it's pretty, and she doesn't have to hide it from me.
Yeah, but she's spent her whole life being told that she has to hide it. Otherwise, people are going to go caveman,
Yeah.
like,
Which is just wild.
yeah, weird. That took a turn I was not expecting.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that was subverting expectations.
Yeah.
Too bad it had to be in the form of a communication trope, but
But we'll see how they wriggle their way
I mean, my hope is that Sabetha just drops off the roof and takes that dude out.
yeah, like
Like
she
Black
goes
Widow's
back
him.
to goes back to apologize to Locke, sees it, knife in the back, just
Done.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I somehow doubt that's what happens, but we'll see.
I also doubt it.
We'll see.
But I'm hoping, well, my prediction is that this guy is going to make Locke do something, and Sabbath is going to be like, what's wrong with you? Why are you acting weird? And then
Yeah.
there's going to be a whole thing of them having to undo the plot of the new patron guy
Maybe.
while he tries to romance Sabbath.
Let's look at how many chapters we have left. We have 5 chapters and an epilogue left. So I suppose that's plenty of time for all that to happen.
Because in theory, that's 5 interludes. So
In theory.
In theory.
And next week we're starting part 3. So, which is the final act
Yeah.
of the book.
Mm-hmm. I don't want the series to be over.
These characters are very endearing.
I love these characters so much.
Yeah.
I don't want the series to be... I know he's making more. I don't want to have to wait for more content. I'm spoiled.
You're lucky you're getting any more content, because this was published a while ago.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
2013, so a whole 10 years later.
it's been a decade.
So you just have to go reread The Gentleman Bastards when you're feeling sad.
I guess so.
I don't know, do you reread books often?
No.
I didn't think so.
Do you?
Just The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings.
Same. Those are, and even then, it's not a true reread. It's more just like a finding a certain section.
Oh, I'll reread them, but I haven't in a while.
You're like, I should change that.
I should. I have a lot of other stuff to read though first.
Word.
I have a lot of stuff to read.
Heard that.
So, anyway, so next week you're gonna read chapter 8.
Mm-hmm. And the interlude.
And I'm
intersect.
assuming there's an interlude and intersect, but yes, if they're there, read them.
Until you hit chapter 9.
Yes.
And we will discuss all of it later.
Exactly.
Being next time.
Right.
In part 7.
This means that I need to get our things together for what we're reading on our next read along, because we only have 3 weeks left of this book.
Oh, you said there was 5 chapters left, so we'd been going like 1 chapter a week.
Well,
but I guess it picks up later.
The last 2 weeks we're doing a little more because they're shorter chapters. So.
Okay, that's okay, because they're probably short and cliffhangery, and then we get to read 2 of them.
Yes. But for next week,
Cool.
just chapter 8. And whatever comes
Okay.
after it. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I guess until next time, happy reading.
And we'll talk to you next time.
Later.
Bye.